Alright, next we'll move on to a whole new character. And this one we do have some artwork for. So I'll put that up as well. Just have some nice visuals as I continue the podcast. Again, I touched on this yesterday, but all these artworks are done by my friend out west, Shayna Wiarda, and you can find her artwork online on her own website if you look it up. Look her name up there. All right. Have another sip here. All right, so to get started here with a new character. So this is the second of the Six Moon, one day after our Renato chapter. Aralim 1, second of the Six Moon, years since Orish 1478. The lights of Lantern Town were like every other town that followed the path. Aralim saw no reason that this place should be called Lantern Town, though the ship's captain of the Wayfinder had said that no towns north of here had as many lanterns. It was only mid-afternoon, and only a few lanterns were lit. Aralim decided to wander the streets until he found a place to stay. It was a somewhat mild day, so he didn't mind the walk. Although it was hot, there was a breeze coming off the ocean. He could still see a few ships with wide-angled sails crossing the wavy horizons toward the city. No houses opened their doors for him, and he found a rather cold reception from any townsfolk he passed on the road. Mostly they just nodded to him and said, "Pleasant day to you." His staff and blue lantern got a few glances from people, surprising him. He could rely on one thing, at least, the homeless. He was almost back at the port, having completed a loop of the city's main streets, when 3 men in torn clothes invited him to join them at a shelter in the harbor. Of course Aralim agreed. One did not turn down the grace of others. In past towns and villages he'd been invited to stay in houses. The Lord of Therathar had invited him to share in his feasts and sleep in his guest chambers as long as he'd like. The lantern staff indicated that Aralim was a walker of the path, and he was treated accordingly. After speaking with the beggars at a small fire pit in their wooden shelter, one said, "They recognize you all right, but the only good the path does here is tourism, you see?" Another of the men present, a small black man, nodded. "I was born on the path, but have since begun to follow it. They give nothing here. I live and meditate in peace, but also in hunger." Aralim was saddened by this. He was on a journey, like many of the walkers. Some who followed the path stayed in one place and focused on meditation to further the strength of their spirit. Others, known as the walkers, believed the secret to power could be learned from places or people of power, and they sought those, as Aralim did. Many such walkers sought out the Orish, as the northerners called it, or the Great Star, as the south did. A light had fallen from the sky, and surely its power could be harnessed. But Aralim was skeptical. He sought the lands further north, for their secrets were far less sought than the well-known Great Star. That men here might live without the care of those who had money and food, even devout men, it was a crime. Either the citizens of Lantern Town had found such great power that they only rarely meddled in the affairs of lesser humans, or they had become cold-hearted. As night fell, the lanterns of the city sprung to light, one by one. Like many towns, Lantern Town lit the night sky with a vibrant glow. It all felt so distant to Aralim. Were they hypocrites to shine the light of spirit-seeking, but not work as a community to further themselves? It was not a judgment he cared to make. The path often defied the understanding of its followers, so Aralim tried to be content with the kindness of the homeless men and women. At least they all treated each other well. Even the homeless children were cared for and protected by the group. Aralim saw no abuse. They gave him a cot for the night, and in the morning a small breakfast of mussels they had scooped up themselves. It was plain seafood, no seasoning or flavoring, but Aralim enjoyed it nonetheless. After he had shared a meal with them, he explained that he was going to go down to the harbor to find another ship. The Wayfinder had brought him this far, but no religious vessel would be traveling further north. He would need to find charter on a normal ship, a transport or a merchant's vessel. As he began to walk toward the harbor, a young girl walked up to him. She couldn't have been much older than 10, and had sandy brown hair bound behind her head. "Can I come along?" she asked, cheerfully. "I cannot deny followers of the path," Aralim said, "but I am seeking enlightenment in dangerous places. Perhaps your parents should show you the path?" "I'm sure my parents would just tell me to saw it off or something like that," she said, still smiling. "Haven't seen him in years." Aralim stopped walking. "What? Why not?" They were both just standing there in the middle of the cobblestone street with the rising sun in their eyes. The girl shrugged. "They brought me down here when I was a child," she said. "You're still a child." She laughed. "They don't even live in Lantern Town. It's the family at the shelter that taught me the path. But I'd like to explore it further." Aralim knelt next to her, a little misty-eyed. "Well, if you're going to walk the path with me, what's your name?" "Mirish," she said. "No last name, just Mirish." "I'm Aralim, and I'm also without parents." She smiled. "So, Aralim, now what?" Aralim stood up. "We do what all walkers do, of course. We walk." Though she giggled, he led the way toward the harbor. They spoke with a boatmaster, with a wooden desk set up at one of the docks. Today was less breezy than the last, and the heat of the sun summoned beads of sweat on Aralim's neck. The boatmaster told him that a ship, the Cloud Trader, was due in port tomorrow, with a planned voyage north to Balesa 2 days following that. Aralim asked Mirish what she thought, and she liked the idea of setting off in a few days. After reserving passage on the boat, they returned to the homeless shelter in Lantern Town, where Aralim got to know more of his new companion's family. Alright, so there was Aralim Chapter 1.